Hello, my name is Anna Sosa. For this assignment, I will be covering the topic of radioactive contamination in Goiania, Brazil. To make this information easily digestible, I have broken it up into subparts. First, I will discuss the purpose and objectives, including the context of this environmental issue in the area of Goiania. Next, I will share a history of global radioactive locations and previous radiation accidents. Additionally, I will cover an assessment of the impact of radioactive contamination on both environmental and population health, including environmental contamination pathways, radioactive contamination levels, and magnitude of these concentrations in analyzed samples. Lastly, I'll share a few summary points and closing statements in regards to lessons learned from this environmental accident in Goiania. I would like to begin by sharing a bit about Goiania, Brazil. Goiania is a major large city and capital in central Brazil. Currently, it has a population of about 1.5 million people. The area is an important economic hub that is a center of industry, medicine, and agriculture. In 1985, the government of Brazil was faced with a major environmental accident in Goiania, resulting from the misuse and mishandling of a radioactive medical teletherapy source without proper authority and licensing. Former premises of the site was improperly demolished, and as a result, two people unknowingly entered the insecure site and attempted to dismantle the device. As a result, one of the most serious radiological accidents was triggered and spread. These radiation accidents occur when dangerous radioactive materials and chemicals are released into the environment. Accidents like these are uncommon given the large number of radioactive sources across the world used for all medical, agricultural, and industrial purposes. However, the containment of these accidents is extremely imperative. Radioactive exposure leads to both internal and external bodily contamination, resulting in toxic materials to enter the bloodstream. Figure 1 presents an overview of global radioactive locations. Although no micro levels of radiation is part of everyday life, although micro levels of radiation are part of everyday life, there are regions of the world where major radioactive contamination accidents have occurred. The most radioactive place on Earth is number 1 on that list, which is Fukushima nuclear power plant located in Japan. The accident in Goiania referred to in this presentation ranks number 8 in the world on level of radioactivity. Figure 2 organizes these global radiation accidents by the type of facility, number of events correlated to those facilities, and the rate of overexposures and deaths. From this data, we can conclude that although non-nuclear facilities have the most occurrences of accidents, the overexposure and death rates are lower, suggesting more controlled accidents in a sense. Taking a look at nuclear facility accidents, on the other hand, these seem to be of bigger magnitude, resulting in significantly more overexposure and deaths. It's important to evaluate this data from an industry standpoint and note that the discrepancies in data can be attributed to policies and regulations within these industries. Moving on to the next portion of this presentation, it will be an assessment of radiation contamination impact on the environment. Figure 3 displays the environmental contamination pathways. Understanding the ways in which radiation passes through the environment in different phases is important in preparing emergency plans for radiological accidents. The initial phase is when urgent action is required, so potential sources and exposures need to be identified and controlled. The recovery phase is when urgent action is no longer required, and the objective is to restore the situation to normal. In the environment, contamination is spread through soil and groundwater, which is uptaked by plants. Spreading pathways can also include surface and air transportation that cycles within the environment. In reference to the accident in Goiania, radiation contamination levels were studied through sediment levels from rivers. The data proved that the river closer to the accident site, which is Anicuna Creek, had significantly higher concentration levels of radiation compared to Jao Dam. This supports the environmental pathway model that was shared on the previous slide. Aside from significant environmental impacts, this accident also impacted the population in a huge way. People of all ages were contaminated, resulting in a deep analysis and report of excreta samples to track radiation magnitudes. Inhalation and direct contact were considered a major pathway of spreading. As you can see here on this chart, Most of the population samples had medium, so manageable levels of radiation traces in excreta samples compared to, significantly higher or lower activity and magnitudes in those samples. In summary, a major radiological accident due to the removal or breaking up of a radioactive source can be triggered if time passes before the accident is reported and controlled, like similar to what happened here in Goiania, Brazil. A set emergency plan of temporary waste storage near the affected site should be in effect. Delays, usually due to politics or policies already in place, can cause further dispersion of these toxic materials and lead to a greater affected population. In general, the reporting and inspection of radiological equipment is extremely important in safety for population and environmental safety. These measures should be enforced through a system of licensing liabilities. The effectiveness of international assistance, lastly, is super imperative in developing an infrastructure that is both stable enough in a country at hand to handle the radioactive accident and, willing to be able to handle these accidents in a timely manner as well. These are my references used, and thank you so much for listening to my presentation. Bye-bye.